Hello there. My name is Jason Summers, and I'm going to do a review of The Wheel of Time, book series by Robert Jordan and finished by Brandon Sanderson when Robert Jordan tragically passed away. So I'm going to review the books, all of them, in this one video. Let's do it. Transition. Okay. So it's kind of a bit of a slow story, and that's the big problem with it. But there are a lot of advantages that come with that. One being just how fleshed out the world and the characters are. Like, sure, it takes a long time, but by the end, I'm just super invested in everything that's going on because I've just spent so much time with it. So that's kind of an advantage, but also a disadvantage. There's also just this really like mythical feeling to the story, and a lot of that is the setting with the Wheel of Time. It just come and pass, and it's just this super mythical idea. I don't know. It just seems like a very fantastical story to me, and that's one of the advantages. Getting into some more details. Right away, not right away, but like after a few books, I started getting a lot of like Revenge of the Sith vibes, or just Star Wars in general vibes. Um, I'm a big fan of Star Wars. If you're new to the channel, or because this is the first video, if you're watching it early. I'm a big Star Wars fan, and so that's a cool thing to have a connection. And it's not so much like the setting, even though the setting is pretty similar. It's not so much the characters either, or the plot. It's just the feeling I get is very similar to Star Wars. It's very mythical, and that's how I would describe both those universes. Let's get into some of the characters though, because the characters are some of the best part. The plot is good, but the characters are better. The setting is also really good. But I want to start with characters. So Rand al'Thor, or Lews Therin Telamon. I mean, he's a good character, but he's not my favorite. I'm not really sure like how I would describe him. If I had to like describe him who he was before the story begins. Whereas Mat, I can say, oh, he's the troublemaker, or Perrin, I can say, oh, he's like the calm, careful one. Rand is just kind of in between. He's the main character, and I'm sure other people connected with him a lot more than I did, but personally, I didn't connect him that much. And then his story arc, he just gets harder and harder and harder. That's kind of the story arc, and then eventually he breaks and has to like reforge himself. And they use a lot of blacksmithing metaphors there because it just fits with what's happening. So it's a good story arc. It's not the most realistic one, and that brings it down a lot for me because all the other ones are just super good. Even though that story arc is good, it's just not the best. What about Mat? Okay, so Mat, like I said, right away you can tell he's the troublemaker. He takes a dagger from, what is it? Shadow Loketh? I forget what is the evil city they go to first. Anyways, he takes a dagger from there, and that kind of just starts him on this downward spiral of getting into trouble and trouble. And he ends up finally getting healed from it, barely surviving. But he meets the Aelfinn and the Eilfin, and they basically just give him magic powers in addition to his Targaryen nature. I don't know. He gets just this like weird set of luck powers, and the Ashendara, and so he doesn't really have much of a character arc. It's just more of an exploration of who he is, and you start thinking, oh, he's just a like a troublemaker kid. He's just the exciting one, but by the end you realize he's got this like thing where he complains about being the hero, but in the end, if someone's in trouble, he's going to save them. So he is responsible, kind of, but he's also a troublemaker, which just makes him entertaining to read. Oh, at the end of like in the later books, his chapters were always my favorite because he was just so entertaining. The Seanchan were super interesting to me, so I like seeing all that in his chapters as well. Perrin is another cool one who, he's the quiet one, he's the careful one. He's big, so he had to learn to be careful. It's, I don't know, just a cool thing. One of my best friends, he's really big, and he's exactly like that. He's very quiet and careful, and caring as well. I don't know, it just feels right to me that Perrin would be a big guy but a careful guy. It just seems right. and then his whole, again, he doesn't really have a drastic character change. It's more of an exploration of who he is, and it's really not so much him changing as much as he's figuring out who he is and deciding how best to like use himself or apply himself. Um, so he's like, sure, he's like calm and careful, but he's also like restraining himself. And by the end, he realizes that, and then he lets himself go full out and takes out Slayer, which was cool to see. I I feel like they had good rivalries in the story as well. Um, yeah. So other characters, Nynaeve is a good one. Nynaeve felt a little bit over the top to me, but at the same time, if you don't like, people are over the top sometimes. Like I don't know anyone like Nynaeve, at least not to that degree, but I can imagine they exist somewhere, and she's entertaining. So that's, I guess, like it didn't like pull me out of the story every time Nynaeve did something very Nynaeve like. It just seemed like, oh, classic Nynaeve. And again, it's like you get to know her, and she's unwilling to let go of people, and she's unwilling to let them heal. So that was, I don't know. It's I'm starting to realize these characters, they don't have as much like character arcs as like modern storytellers or the stories I'm used to reading. Um, they're more just like explorations of the characters and kind of figuring out who they are, which is also interesting. Then you have Egwene, who I really liked Egwene as well. She's very resourceful and just intelligent. Um, yeah, I feel like she might be a bit overpowered. Cause she's not even Targaryen. She's just strong with strong with a strong channeler, and she becomes like the best Ermlin ever as like a young child. Like even Swan, it's like, yeah, you're a better Ermlin than me. It's a bit, but at the same time, though, I liked it, so I can't really complain about it. Um, yeah, so Gwen was good. Uh, I mean, all the other characters, like, there's a lot of other like side characters or characters that weren't like seen from the beginning or fleshed out as much. But even all of them were good. Like Talmanas, he's a character that I really empathize with. I'm a lot like him. He's just like a background character, but at the same time, he gets some, not development, but they get some exploration of who he is, and that's really cool to see that. Even someone such a side character like who's barely introduced until like the later books, he gets fleshed out a bunch, which is cool to see. But it's not just the characters that are good; it's also the setting. Specifically, like the magic is good, but specifically my favorite part is the cultures. Like they are so inspiring to read about all these things that the Aiel do and the Kyrienan politics and um, Andor and all of this stuff. The Shan-Chan especially are just because they come from a different continent, so they're allowed to be so different, and this contrast allows you to explore the the two different cultures a lot better, which is just fascinating to read. So and it's not just interesting; it also makes the characters seem more real, because they're like the world feels real. You're invested in it. You're not like taking another story. You're not like, oh, this is a story. Yeah, that wouldn't happen in real life. You're like, no, this feels like a real story, and so I can be invested in it, and it just feels natural, which is great. So like setting is probably the least important aspect of your story. Like between setting, character, and plot, it's probably the least important. You can have great characters and great plot and a terrible setting, and everyone will love it. You can have a just great characters, and everyone will like it. You can have just great plot, and everyone likes it. Maybe not quite as much that one, but still, that's possible. But if you just have a great setting and terrible characters and plot, I mean, you're just writing a science book at that point, except with different science, which is cool, but it's not like moving. It's just cool. So setting is very important, but it's the least important, and yet when combined with good characters and a good plot or a decent plot, like in Wheel of Time, or great characters and a decent plot is how I would describe it. When you combine a great setting with that, it makes it so much better. So the detail that goes into these cultures is great, and then not only that, but like the not just the details of the time, but of the past too. With the Aiel's backstory as a nation, like not um, they're not just like one character has a backstory. Like the entire nation has a backstory, and so does like the Shanshan with Otter Hawkling. Although I'm not really sure what their backstory is. It's never quite explored quite as clearly as the Aiel backstory. But yeah, it's really cool to see all the like the past of the Aes Sedai and all that, and even just makes you wonder what the future is. With when Avienda saw the future of the Aiel, which I guess changed. I'm not sure if it changed, but either way, it's very interesting to see all of that world building, all of that detail, and it just makes it feel so realistic. And I really appreciate all the work that Robert Jordan put into that setting. It's really cool. So yeah, as for like just like a overall thoughts, returning to more of like a conclusion on this review, it was really good. It's really long and kind of hard to get to. The pace is not as fast as I'm used to. Um, the characters don't have as like um, life changing of arcs. They're more just explorations, and it makes the pace feel a little bit slower because less is happening. But at the same time, just it there's so much detail in here, and there's just so much there that it's worth the long read in my opinion. So I don't want to give like a number rating because I know if I start doing that, I'm going to do that for everything, and I'm not going to be consistent. But it is it is a very good story, and I would definitely suggest it. Although I suppose this was a spoiler review, so you've probably already seen it. I don't know. That's my thoughts on the Wheel of Time. Thanks for watching, and I look forward to building a community maybe on this channel. I'm not really sure yet. Yeah, if you want me to make more videos, definitely leave a comment, leave a like too. That will be encouraging to me. And as I read more books, I put up more reviews. Maybe, I don't know. I'm not sure. So yeah, or if you have book suggestions, that'd be cool too. So I think that's everything I want to say in this video. So with all that, peace out.